Hello, my name is Marshall Thomas, and I'd like to explain myself in a brief speech. I don't claim to be any smarter or any more important than anyone else. If I'm different, it's because of the path that this life has led me down. I began searching for something I couldn't quite name when I was 25. I bought a camera and went for long walks in the woods and began to identify with the natural world, nature worship. When I was 29, I quit my job with NASA and started teaching ESL, English as a Second Language. I was going to save the world, one child at a time. I was very idealistic even at 29. I moved into a Hispanic neighborhood and taught myself Spanish with the help of my neighbors. When I turned 33, I got sick while traveling in Central America on spring break. I had surgery to remove a thyroid tumor and developed an autoimmune disease. I went to my HMO and other doctors, but they couldn't help me. The school district fired me. I lost my insurance, my savings. I was sick and unable to work. The worst of the illness came and went like a roller coaster, relapsing and remitting. It comes and it goes, progressive. It gets worse all over time. After 18 months, I felt like I was going to die, but I didn't want to die in the big city. So I moved out into the country and lived on 10 acres that belonged to a friend. It was a shack in the woods with no running water, but I had escaped the big city. A friend of mine later said that I had gone off alone, like a dog, to die, which kind of summed it up well. I felt that I had had a lot to give to the world, and I wanted to join the team for the big win. I wanted to be part of this society, but I felt like that they had, in essence, written me off. For lack of a better term, I felt like they had flushed me. My health was broken, my body, that I had taken for granted so many years, had betrayed me. The muscles of my neck and my back contracted so badly I couldn't sleep for nearly 6 months. I would pass out for 2 or 3 hours, but never really rested or dreamed. I don't really know how to describe the years of torment. Robbed of my physical body, and gradually my mind, my very sanity, was on the line. For months, I sat in a chair in the dark silence. Light and sound caused me physical pain. My eyes were rolled up halfway up in my head. My time sense broke down, and 4 hours seemed to go by like 15 minutes. When I held a glass in my hand, it would either slip out of my hand and crash to the floor, or I would break it in my hand accidentally. I couldn't coordinate my grip strength. I thought I was going to wind up in a nursing home. These last few years have been hard on a lot of people. They've lost their jobs, lost their homes, their families. I'm sure many people have lost their very lives. I know exactly how they feel because I've been through much the same thing for the last 16 years. I've gotten a PhD in human suffering. Out of desperation, I went back to the doctor and got lucky and found someone who could help me. And after a few years, I recovered, at least well enough to walk 100 yards or more without stopping to rest. I decided to go back to school. I was going to save 1 million lives. I was going to change the world and make it worth the price that I had paid to stay in this world. I worked in the biology department, studied microbiology, and joined the hantavirus team. After 9/11, I decided to make a medicine that would stop a biological weapon. The Soviet plague bioweapon was resistant to antibiotics. I came up with a solution and found business partners and formed a company and applied for an NIH grant under Project BioShield. It was around that time that I learned that innocent people were being used as human guinea pigs to perfect the latest and greatest anti-personnel weapons coming out of the Department of Defense weapons labs. For years, I've interviewed these people, like an epidemiologist, finding out their symptoms and what they have in common. If I seem rather unemotional about this, I'm sorry. It's because I've had to harden my heart to terrible human suffering that seemed at times to go on without end. My own government is waging an undeclared war on my own people. I believe in people. I believe in their basic goodness. Yet evil exists. It exists and it works its will in this world. I believe in my country and its ability to be a force for good in the world. Abraham Lincoln called the United States the last best hope of the human race. And if the human race ever needed hope, it needs it now, for now is perhaps the hour of its greatest trial. I guess I may have been chosen, not because of superiority, but because of this path that I have walked down, this path that life has led me down. I've been a curious mixture of a 20-year-old young pleasure seeker, an atheist, an idealist, a naturalist, a scientist, a failure, and a fool. But I've been blessed with gifts, gifts that I have paid for. Sitting Bull was a shaman of the Sioux people. He prayed, fasted, and made sacrifices of his own flesh and blood. He was given visions of the outcomes of battles and visions of his own ultimate fate. He paid for them. Nothing in this life is free. The demands of this moment are many, and many shall be called. The prize is potentially a new age of peace and freedom. The price of failure may be worse than death itself. I don't have all the answers. I don't call all the shots. And I don't blame you if you're skeptical. I would be too in your place. But if you ignore facts, historical facts, and physical evidence, then I do find fault. I only ask that you use your common sense. The average man or woman on the street is perfectly capable of deciding what is in his or her best interest. I am saying that the new weapons, similar to those in public, are being used on innocent people. If the Russians used these weapons, microwave weapons, on the United States Embassy in the 1950s and got away with it for years, then what chance do these people have? I am saying that criminal behavior committed all the way through the Cold War by the Department of Defense and others on 500,000 people is still going on today. U.S. citizens are being used as human guinea pigs in terminal experiments, experiments that end in death. This is not new. It is a continuation of past behavior. The figure of 500,000 people is the government's own figure. The majority of the targets are political activists and whistleblowers. Historically, these kinds of people have been under attack for many years. This is a historical fact. There are a few personalities in military intelligence who are borderline personalities, people who need to be investigated. They are not crazy, but they are different. One individual has a PhD in the science of death. He is literally Dr. Death. He has been in charge of developing the new weapons for the Army since 1980 for the past 30 years. These men have written about how to use the new weapons. They have advocated using them on civilians in their homes. They have expressed admiration publicly for previous illegal government programs that were war crimes, and they have expressed interest in using non-lethal microwave weapons, torture, to modify human behavior. These alleged criminals have helped move the classified weapons into the hands of law enforcement and vigilantes. And if that were not enough in and of itself, they have also participated in a smokescreen cover-up. These facts are all out in the open. There is much more on these websites, in books and films, but these facts by themselves should lead us to the logical conclusion. Mark Twain said that history does not repeat itself, it rhymes. I am describing the same old song with a different tune. There is nothing new under the sun. People will say there is no absolute proof. The airtight proof is classified, hidden in Fort Meade, and no one is going to break in and steal it. People will say that the victims are all crazy. This is what they said about all the other 500,000 victims, U.S. citizens who were used as human guinea pigs and target practice. I am saying, use your own common sense that God gave you and stop listening to people who tell you not to believe your own eyes and ears. Critics are using a shoot the messenger strategy to smear me as a terrible human being. Well, of course they are, because they certainly can't use logic and reason to refute the facts presented here. What better way to ignore the facts than to change the subject and make this about me? Let me be very clear. This is not about me. Human beings reduce things to one personality because it helps us put larger concepts and larger ideas into perspective. The power is impressive and even seductive, but I am just a radio, an old transistor radio. I am not the music. You are in love with the music. Good. You should be. But I'm not the music. I'm just another human being on this earth, and I am laying my head on the chopping block, and I fully expect to be destroyed. I cannot be bought off, scared off, or controlled. This power is not under their control, and so they must destroy a thing to control it. First, I will be discredited as a public person, then destroyed financially, spiritually, and finally physically destroyed. There is no avoiding it. I am just another person on this earth, and soon I will be gone. Evil exists in this world. It is not imaginary. Americans want to live in the world of Norman Rockwell because this is a safe place. But the world itself is in play, and the fate of nations will be decided by people, ordinary people, everyday people, just like you and me. This is our generation's moment of truth. Will we, the people of the world, confront this evil in our midst? Will we overcome the fortress of evil that wages war on the innocent and seeks to determine our collective destiny? Charismatic leaders by themselves will not get you to the top of the mountain. Your fate can only be decided by you and people like you who decide to act in unison, together. I remember all the people killed by car bombs and suicide bombers, and how the victims' bodies are all taken away, but the shoes they wore remain. The assassins have killed them. They have stolen their lives and they have silenced them. They have stolen their humanity. They are rendered silent except for piles and piles of shoes. This program of torture and murder is largely unseen because the cause of death is often heart attack or cancer. I intend to pressure my congressional representative to stop this madness by telling them that I intend to speak for those who have been silenced. I will take a few minutes and a few dollars to mail them a single shoe in silent protest, speaking for those who are gone and cannot be replaced. In their place, I will demand that the alleged criminals be detained, that their elite military intelligence brigade be disarmed, and that reforms take place to guarantee that this nightmare will never happen again. It is a small gesture, but out of many small gestures may come a great wave of change. I don't have a master plan or perfect strategy to end this secret dirty war on humanity. The most I feel that I can ask of others is that they look inside their hearts, and if they wish to fight for these victims, I ask that they join me in a day of protest. I humbly ask that people stay home from the next workday, stay home from the next school day. It is my intention to protest, and through peaceful protest, let my government know that I am demanding that the alleged criminals be forced from their positions of public power. I believe in the value and strength of ordinary people. In reality, there is no such thing as ordinary people, because human beings are all extraordinary. Do not doubt your ability to accomplish the impossible. For when the hour is struck, and when it is time for a people to be free, there is no force on earth that can stop the people's march to freedom. Thank you.